It's an interesting question because I guess if you're looking at the lens of evolution, like what do you call it? Through evolution, like looking at societies and cultures through like evolutionary biology, you might assume like, well, people ate things because they were the right things to eat, but sometimes they ate things because they were available.
Right.
And with that one, I couldn't tell you.
But I mean, do they ever eat the liver without all the other nasty stuff connected to it? Just raw liver? Because raw liver itself is difficult.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, so it was nice to be distracted by the green poop juice on there. No, so at that time they ate, to back up a little bit, this Datoga tribe was super interesting. We're way out in the middle of nowhere in Tanzania. They have these beautiful huts with a flat roof, grass growing off the top of it. And in this tribe specifically, it was a woman's job to dispatch the animal and to butcher up the animal. And so the way they kill it is, because this is a whole different topic we could get into, but the way people dispatch animals around the world varies greatly. And here, they would take the cow, they would tip it on its side or on its back, and then they would essentially suffocate it. They would put different logs, like wood, long pieces of wood or branches into its throat. It would take about 10 minutes, and eventually it would pass away. Then these same women cut it open, they get to butchering, they have their first initial feast, they get dibs, which you don't see in most cultures, especially in Africa. Usually stuff is going to go to the guys first. They take what they want, then they mixed the rest of the bile, blood, and organs all together and present it to the men.
Whew. Why do they kill the cows that way?
So I'm really, this is something you may have seen in my videos, that I don't really shy away from how the animals are dispatched or how they're killed. And I think it reveals something about the culture and about people, and I just find it fascinating because it's different every place you go. With the goat that you just showed, with the Maasai, they killed a goat and they suffocated it. So they put their hands on his nose and mouth and they held it there for 3-4 minutes until it stopped moving. And I asked the guy in the interview, why are you doing this? Doesn't that seem cruel? And he said it would be far more cruel to slash the animal's throat to make it suffer from that, and then to have it also suffer from dying afterwards. So it's kind of like 2 points of suffering compared to one. I mean, it's a tough question. Would you rather have your throat slashed or have someone suffocate you to death?
Well, throat slash would be quicker.
It'd be quicker, but it would feel so traumatic and insane. Like,
you don't think it's traumatic to get suffocated to
Well,
death?
I do think that they're both pretty bad.
Yeah, they're both pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just have come up with some sort of a moral reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also about blood collection. So if they want the blood to pool within the body. So I think it's moral, but I think it's practical too, because then they can cut the body open, the blood's pooled in there, and they can scoop it out to
They don't waste any of the blood because they eat the blood. Now, when the women get first dibs, what do they choose?
Organs.
Organs.
And it's all over the world, organs.
Really?
Organs are always eaten first. And liver is one of the most valued any place you go. Also with the Maasai are really interesting. So I've heard you talk about the Maasai before. The Maasai are really famous for eating milk, blood, and meat, almost exclusively. At least it used to be that way, and now, corn flour, and like people mix corn flour with water. It's called ugali, at least in some countries. But that's eaten all over Africa. And so that's more pervasive now, but it used to be just those three things. And the blood, you might think, oh, so to collect blood, when they kill the animal, they eat the blood. No, the Maasai will take an arrow, put it into a live cow's neck, drain some of the blood, then seal it up with some shit, and then drink that blood, or mix that blood with milk.
Why would they seal it up with shit?
Yeah, so to me that seemed not like the cleanest choice.
Right.
But maybe the shit's saturated with piss, which helps to keep it clean. I don't know. I was kind of shocked. I was shocked when I saw it. I'm not sure.
They're using animal shit.
They're using animal shit, or the cow's own shit, and so that did stop the bleeding. And so they have this really peculiar diet. And
so here they're doing it here.
Yeah. So this got demonetized. That's for sure. YouTube doesn't love when you show arrows going into a cow's neck.
The worst, strange looking arrow too. Like what's on the head?
It's got basically like a little razor blade. The worst part about shooting this is that they were fucking bad at it. I was like, do you guys still do this all the time? Because why is it taking you 20 times? At least be good at it.
Yeah, so they're just trying to get into that vein.
Yeah, and they tie it off like a heroin junkie,
So
so
there
the
it
vein
is.
gets all big. And the point I wanted to make, getting back to the liver, is that the way they section up meat is really interesting among the Maasai tribe, and many other tribes are like this too. So how they separate the meat is that each quarter, each piece goes to a different group. And so they have ribs, they have front quarters, they have hind quarters. Some might go to pregnant women, some goes to young women. But the liver always goes to the older men.
How interesting. It's so interesting that we don't eat liver over here, or very rarely.
Or
It's
that is
unusual
really,
for people over here to eat liver.
that is looked down on too. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, liver. It's like a hacky joke from like 80s or 90s TV. Like, oh, liver and onions, gross. Liver's great. And what I find that I find there's a lot of food in the U.S. that people just don't know how to cook well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not part of our culinary lexicon here.
Right.
And this is something I talk about a lot. I find it very lame that in the U.S., this country of extremes, this country where people are so into whether it's entrepreneurship or extreme sports or fighting, we're so extreme with everything. But then when it comes to food that's a little bit outside of like salads, wraps, burgers, sandwiches, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I would never eat that. I would never eat that. And it's said with pride, not like I wouldn't eat that because I'm a pussy. They're like, oh, I would never eat that. And that's something I don't really understand when it comes to how many Americans look at food from around the world. And so, I mean, part of my show, really the point isn't to be like, ew, look at this icky, weird food. It's to try to create some understanding and empathy for people around the world, and understanding as to why are people eating this way.
Mm. And so when